Well, we're blessed this morning to have Chad back with us. And if you've not heard him, you're in for a blessing today. And Chad and Julia. So if you will, welcome Chad Dedmon.
Okay, here we go. You guys ready? Okay, just off the plane from vacation, and I love it because God really speaks to me when I go on vacation. And so I'm kind of giving you a message. The greatest message you carry is, what God's teaching you. And so this, I feel like I've been in this season of, the Lord's been just teaching me about Thanksgiving, and it's just been shouting from the rooftops. And so I've just been kind of just diving into Thanksgiving, and I have some really good news, something to be very thankful for that you could celebrate with me, is my wife is pregnant. And as loud as you were, that's about as loud as I was by myself. And we're due on Thanksgiving Day. So there's something going on in our lives about Thanksgiving. And so we have some awesome resources in the back, supernatural stories. I just share a bunch of crazy testimonies about Jesus, about what he's done. And Julie and I, we've been translated twice, on the Highway 5 freeway. So that's pretty cool for mileage and stuff. But just had some, seen some crazy miracles. And what's cool is, we're all called to see this stuff. So I just pray in impartation that you have your own stories, your own breakthrough with Jesus. And this is all us Bethel authors, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And it's a book called An Apple a Day, all us Bethel authors got together. And then The Risk Factor is a book my dad and I wrote together, pretty amazing on faith and taking risk. Anybody you're visiting? Come on up here. You could just have these. Yep, we got things to share. Come on. There you go, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
And so, we're going to jump right into it. So we're just going to hit the ground running. You guys ready? Okay. So I just love Thanksgiving. It's something that comes very natural to me, but I'm going to just kind of studying it and just kind of observing my life and looking back. I mean, I've just always been happy, thankful. There's Thanksgiving's kind of attached to, optimism, gratitude. And sometimes I took some flack as an optimist, and especially from the pessimists. And it was when I was young, they thought I was naive and, also, but there is something about cultivating Thanksgiving. There's something about cultivating optimism, and it all comes from this place of knowing who your God is. And so we'll dive into that a little bit, but first let's start it off with Psalm 100. And Thanksgiving is a form of praise. It's a form of worship. And I just want us to grab a hold. This will be, we'll grab a couple different scriptures in there, and there's just so many scriptures on Thanksgiving and gratitude. And I love this topic. It's a big part of me. Julia says, I am the captain of fun for our marriage. And there's something about joy and Thanksgiving. They're so married together. And they're just, I love fun. I love joy. And it comes from this well of Thanksgiving. So anyways, Psalm 100, we'll just go, I think I told them maybe 100 verse 4, but let's just read the whole Psalm because it's so good and it's really short too. So shout joyfully to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful singing. Know that the Lord himself is God. It is he who has made us and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. And enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name, for the Lord is good. His loving kindness is everlasting, and his faithfulness to all generations. I love that. Doesn't that fire you up? There's something about just Thanksgiving. There's something that, I love it. I'm just really excited. This is, I preach myself happy. And There's a study at Harvard where they had, for 2 years, they had a group of people have a gratitude journal for 2 years. And then they did a study of those that didn't have the gratitude journal. And so for those that had this Thanksgiving, thankfulness, gratitude journal for 2 years, 26% of them had fewer physical symptoms, any like pain, 26%. 33% more, they spent more time exercising, 33%. So there you go. 21% were in less physical pain. 44% had more sleep. And 71% increased in sleep quality. Interesting. So there's just something about this place of Thanksgiving, this place of having gratitude in your heart. And you talk about optimism, and I asked Julia the other day, I think we were on vacation or at some point this week, I asked her, I said, do you feel like I'm as thankful as I was when you first met me? Am I carrying that level of thanksgiving? And she says, yes, you are, but you aren't as naive as you were when I first met you, which was a compliment. I know that maybe sounds as a roundabout way of I was very naive back in the day, but she's talking about the life experiences we've had, the trials we've had. I mean, James says in James 1 verse 2, hey, count it all joy, all the trials, all the trials that you have in your life. Count it joy. I mean, it's Paul in prison who has one of the greatest books on joy. Rejoice, I say again, I say rejoice. And he's, writing this out in prison. I mean, it's crazy. And so, it's not about, Winston Churchill has an amazing quote. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. You know that they say that optimists live longer than pessimists? And the pessimists all said, I knew it. That was actually a joke I just made up just now. Be sure to tip your waiter. I'll be here all week. There's just something about optimism. There's something that's so attached to this place of Thanksgiving, knowing that if God is with you, who can be against you? That you can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Nothing is impossible for those that are in Christ. You get tossed in trials, you get tossed in different places, and it's easy to get into a place of negativity and complaining, grumbling. If you want to know the quickest way to stop a move of God, complain. And it is the opposite of Thanksgiving. I mean, Israel, if you want to study the journey of a nation, every time that they would backslide, they would move away from God, it was from a place of where the beginning manifestations of backsliding was complaining and grumbling. And this is a culture, this is a nation that had Thanksgiving as their backbone, which we look at Thanksgiving and it's this place of remembrance. Israel had remembrance stones they would carry. They would have their staff, their rods, and there would be notches in the rod to remind themselves of the incredible miracles that God did. And then you look at Numbers 13, 14, where then the footstep, they're at the doorstep of the promised land, and they began to complain and grumble. And they say, you know what? We need to just kill Moses, kill these spies, Caleb and Joshua, and let's go choose another leader that agrees with us, that wants to complain with us, and we'll go back to the enemy. I mean, it's crazy. You read it. Read Numbers 13, 14. It's crazy. But it all started from this place of complaining, this place of not being thankful that these miracles that God was providing, he was communicating to them, hey, I'm going to be your provider. I'm going to take you all the way. I'm not going to lead you to the doorstep of these giants to let you die, which they started believing. You brought us here just to die by the sword. That there's something about the miraculous that injects faith, and it's this place of remembrance that these miracles weren't just to have a cloud by day so you have some shade. God's just an amazing umbrella guy. That fire by night, so there's this incredible flashlight. It was they weren't sick. They had manna, sometimes quail. And it was this place of thanksgiving that would remind them of who their God is. And you look at Thanksgiving, and it's one of the foundations of Thanksgiving is recognizing who our God is and also salvation. It's reminded of our eternal destiny. I mean, you look at, through the Psalms where they were on death's doorstep, and then they begin to move in Thanksgiving, and it reminds them of who their God is and who they are in God and their eternal destiny. You look at Psalm 73, the priest is, I'm sorry, I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. Are you guys doing okay? It's like a shotgun. Just read all this stuff that I'm talking about. Psalm 73 is this amazing, amazing scripture of this priest who is looking at the world and the wealth of the world, the wealth of the wicked. Why are they not in disease? And why are they, not in their demise, but they're flourishing in their wickedness? And he is focused on the world, the wickedness, the enemy, and he gets into a place of depression. But he says, you read through Psalm 73, and then he steps into the sanctuary of the Lord. And then he gets reminded of his eternal destiny. And he's reminded about how their wealth could be just taken away in a second. And what he has is priceless. And then he enters into thanksgiving. He enters into praise. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. David said, return to me the joy of my salvation. It's so important in life to have pinch me moments where you have to pinch yourself. Meaning you get into a place of God's presence where you are pinching yourself going, is this real? Where thanksgiving begins to just rise up in you. And I have to take notice, man, has that happened lately? The different things that unlock my heart, that soften my heart, that cause my heart to go into Thanksgiving, and worship is such a big part of that, where I'll just be in worship, I'll just be in gratitude, this place of just thanksgiving, of this is ridiculous. The creator of the universe is in my presence, and I'm in the presence of the creator of the universe. And I'm weeping because I'm not sad, I'm not depressed, I'm just so thankful. And it's not just for a Sunday morning or a worship conference that, I'll have worship going on in my car, and I'll hear the same song over and over again, but there'll be times where I'll hear the song, and then I could feel the Spirit of God come into the car, but I could easily dismiss it. I could easily be in a hurry. I could be busy. I'll never forget being 18. It was one of my favorite worship songs, still is today, is Obsession by Delirious. And I heard it. I heard this song, and I was driving, and I heard it so many different times, but something different was about this. Like there was an invitation. And I just hit it repeat, and I just started singing it over and over again. And next thing I know, I'm crying, and I had to pull the car over, and I'm late for a meeting. And the windows are fogged up, and I'm screaming, my heart burns for you. And I get a knock on the window, and it's an 18-wheeler truck guy, and he thinks I'm like having a nervous breakdown. This teenager has a radiator hose burst or something, and he's like, it's gonna be okay, I can fix the car. And I roll down my window, I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm just so in love with Jesus. And it was just this moment of thanksgiving. And I have these remembrance stones in my life, and you have remembrance stones. And there's something about the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. That when you begin to come in a place of thanksgiving, especially when you're not feeling thankful, especially when you feel like you're dry, when you're not at your own remembrance stone currently, but then you go back to other, in your past, where I got baptized in the Holy Spirit in a red Jeep Cherokee on the way to Walmart when I was 18 years old. And I'll just think about that day, and then suddenly I start feeling an anointing that I felt when I was 18 years old, because I am in this place of remembrance. I'm in this place of thanksgiving. Testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And there's something about Thanksgiving that reminds us and actually brings just the presence of God into your current state. You guys doing good? I'll never forget, Julie and I, we went to Australia. And we flew to Brisbane. And so we went Reading, San Francisco to Sydney, Sydney to Brisbane. So that's our flight itinerary. And that's like a 20-hour saga, maybe 22-hour saga. And so we're flying into Sydney. We find out that it's fogged over, so they can't fly us in. We fly into Brisbane. And I'm thinking, this is great news. Thanks a lot. We don't have to fly to Sydney anymore. We get to go straight to Brisbane. And I was supposed to arrive in Brisbane at 9:30 in the morning, and I preached that night at 7 p.m. So I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to get there even earlier than 9:30. I'm going to get there at like 6 a.m. We're going to get there. We get to take a nap. We get to work out. I'm going to be on the schedule. Jet lag isn't going to have any problem. We land in Brisbane, and we just sit there on the tarmac. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I'm like, why won't you let us out? And they're like, no, we can't. You're not supposed to be here. And I'm like, yeah, I am supposed to be here. Here's my ticket. Just throw my bag outside the plane, and I will run out of the tarmac. Just let me out of here. And we sat in there for 5 hours. And then they flew us to Sydney, which obviously we missed our connecting flight, and all the other flights were booked because they had fog in Sydney, so they were all overbooked. We didn't get out of there until 5 p.m. out of Sydney. We arrived into Brisbane at 6:30. I have to be at church at 7. I'm wearing a tracksuit. I'm not wearing button-up shirt. I am not telling you, you want to grow in Thanksgiving, go and travel for work. I'll never forget one time I went to the airport and I said, yeah, I'd like this bag to go to Chicago and I want this bag to go to Houston. And they looked at me really perplexed and said, sir, we don't provide this kind of service. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Last month you provided this service, no problem. No charge. So I was not operating in Thanksgiving as we were coming off the plane, and I was next to this older gentleman. We were standing, and I was waiting for the doors, and they were saying, oh, the doors won't open yet. We were having the malfunction. I'm like, oh, of course, I was already here in Brisbane this morning for 5 hours. Now we can't get off the plane, and so I'm getting into complain mode, and this older gentleman just looks at me, and I tell him my saga, and he goes, you know what? It's going to be worth it. And something in me just arose. He looks at me. I'm like, this man is prophesying. This man he just looks at me and goes, you know what? It's going to be worth it. And then I'm not telling you, I had a heart change. Something just shifted in me. And I looked at him like, you are right. It's going to be worth it. And I started focusing on all the things that God was going to do. I started thinking, man, this is going to be amazing. Like, take me to the hospital before the meeting. We need to pray for people. Julia remembers I was screaming, yeah, it's going to be worth it. And there was, in Australia, you're allowed to come to the gate. And it used to be before 9/11, you could go all the way to the gate in America. And so the pastor is there. He's a good friend of mine, and I do know him pretty well, so I don't know if I'll do this with someone in the first meeting, but you never know. I am coming off of the whatever it is, to connect you from the plane to the terminal and the jetway, whatever it is, and I am running with my carry-on bag. It's gonna be worth it. I see my friend who's the pastor, and I tackle him, and I scream, it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be amazing. And there's just this thing in me. He shook something alive in me. He did. This man prophesied, this stranger gave me an invitation where I could operate in Thanksgiving, and something just clicked. You can't be focused on the negativity. There'll be things to complain about, but you've got to stir up thanksgiving. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. And in his career, he missed 9,000 shots. He lost 300 games. He was entrusted to win 26 games with the last second shot, and he missed. See, I mean, this is the greatest player of all time. And his focus wasn't the missed shots. And he's celebrated as the greatest closer of all time. There's just something, what is your focus? I was, I have so much that I want to just explode. But I'll do one more story, then we're going to end with a YouTube video. You guys doing well? I was in Indonesia, 20 years old, and I was going from island to island preaching the gospel, had no idea what I was doing, and I traveled by plane, by boat, by car, by bus, by all kinds of means of transportation. I hiked into the jungles 15 hours. I mean, just did crazy stuff. It was amazing. And so anyways, I was on a boat, and the boat started taking on water. The captain started looking really nervous, and I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "I think we're taking on more water." And he's speaking in Indonesian. I have my translator with me. And he's telling us how the boat is taking on way more water than we could get out, and he's really concerned because the radio was broken when we took off. So the radio doesn't work to tell us to tell people we're sinking and our position to come and get us. We're in the middle of the ocean. You can't see land. So we start taking the next steps of getting everything out of the boat into the ocean, the open water ocean. And so he's looking a little more nervous. I ask him, "What's the matter?" He's all, "Well, we have 6 life preservers, and there's 9 of us. And there's 5 guys that don't know how to swim. 5 guys don't know how to swim. Your occupation is a fisherman, and you don't know how to swim? I mean, go get the wingies or something and learn. I mean, do something." But anyways, so we are in a scramble. We're trying to get everything, that we need, and because the boat's going down, it's about half sunken in now. And somebody falls and scrapes their arm, and blood is going everywhere. And the captain's looking really nervous now. And I go, what's the matter? And he's like, "Well, this is the worst tiger shark area of Indonesia." So we jump in the water with this guy's gaping wound, blood all over. And I am treading water. There's like a little float, I grab it. And so we treaded water for 8 hours. And I was able to grab on about every 10 minutes or so and kind of rest a little bit, still kicking. But anyways, a boat comes and says, "Do you need a ride?" And we're like, put my thumb out and everything. And he looked at the captain and said, "How much money do you have?" And I said, all of it's yours. You could have it all. And I'm a very poor missionary. Here's like $60. And so anyways, he took us on, and I told him what island we're trying to get to, and we're speaking at this church. And so I've thought, okay, we're going to get to the right island now. Shipwrecked and everything. We're going to go speak at this church. He takes us to the wrong island. And for some reason, I'm really frustrated. Because we're at the wrong island, I've lost my clothes and all this sort of stuff, and this guy comes running up to us, and he is screaming, he's crying in this place of Thanksgiving that we've arrived. He's got this book, and he says, "I noticed it's a Bible." And he says, "This book showed up on our shores over 30 years ago. It's written in English. We don't know what it says. We've been waiting for you for over 30 years to come and tell us about this book." So, yeah, that's good. That's amazing. So we gather the people of the island. There's about 180 or so, and there's no chairs, there's no carpet. We just sit down, and I go from Genesis 1. and just talk through the Bible for about a good 3 hours. I get, through some of the Old Testament, and I'm exhausted. And they put on this feast where, we're eating fruit and, all this different stuff. They kill this wild boar. And then I go to sleep. I get woken up 2.5 hours later where they say, tell us more about this book. And so me and the translator wake up and we talk, and then we go back to sleep. We talk for about 3 hours, go back to sleep. They wake us up again, and we talk for another 3 hours, and we go back to sleep. And for this time, I couldn't go back to sleep. And I go out. We have this little hut, this little, bamboo hut that I'm sleeping on the floor with like leaves. And I come out of my little hut, and they're all sitting there where we talk to them. They're just sitting there waiting. So they can't wait anymore, which is about 2.5, 3 hours. And then until they can't wait anymore, they come and wake me up. And then I'm like, I can't go back to sleep knowing that they're just sitting there waiting for us. So I wake up my friend who's the translator, and we go into it, and we get to Jesus. And now they're like transfixed. I mean, they're just like, are you this man Jesus? I mean, this guy is amazing. And then we get to where he gets crucified. And the whole place goes into like riot zone. Like, I'm telling you, one guy took his head and he started banging his head against a coconut tree, screaming, I don't want to live in a world where they've killed Jesus. And one guy started ripping apart his roof, which was made up of bamboo. He's just ripping apart his roof. I mean, they are going ballistic because they've never knew anyone could be resurrected. They didn't know the end of the story. And so we had to gather them and say, hey, that's not the end of the story. We're not done. And we get them all back, and then we talk about how Jesus gets resurrected, and then they go into authentic thanksgiving, authentic praise, and every one of them gets radically saved, and it was amazing. It was incredible. So really quick, to end this time that I have had with you, so I've been feasting on Thanksgiving, and I want to encourage you to feast on Thanksgiving. We're going to watch a YouTube video, and this is a YouTube video of Joshua Bell. He plays his violin in Washington, D.C. at the metro station, and what I want to end with is for us to recognize, see, that was an amazing story. It's easy to move in Thanksgiving when you have that kind of stuff happening, but you need to learn how to cultivate Thanksgiving every day. There's beauty every day in front of us, that there's something to be thankful about. And just this vacation, I wrote 365 things that I'm thankful for, and I want to meditate for 5 minutes a day on each thing, on one thing a day. 365 days, that I'm just doing an experiment myself, that this is something that I am learning, cultivating, that I want to cultivate a greater place of Thanksgiving in my life. And so anyways, Joshua Bell, he is this amazing violinist. He's probably one of the best in the world. He has auditoriums of thousands of people that pay hundreds of dollars. When he does a performance, it's about $1,000 a minute that he makes. So he's making pretty good money, and he does an experiment. The Washington Post approaches him and says, will you do this experiment where you play in the subway? Will people be so consumed with busyness, with not recognizing beauty, that they won't even see that they are in the midst of excellence? And so 1,100 people, and he played for 50 minutes. 1,100 people passed him by. 7 people stopped over a minute. People pay thousands of dollars to see this guy play, and 7 people out of 1,100 in an hour stopped for over a minute. He made $32 in 1 hour. So let's watch this video. His violin is worth $3.5 million. And that's the violin he's playing in the subway. So this is going to be a fast forward version, but you'll watch how everyone is passing him by as he's playing. So this is 2 minutes in 1 hour. this lady. That lady's not moving. You'll see this lady approach him with the white bag and say, I saw you perform. And it was so amazing. So she recognizes who he is. All right, that's good. So I just want us to grab a hold of this, that there's beauty in front of us every day, that there's excellence in front of us every day, something to be thankful for, that just to have eyes to see, to have that gift of observation and to recognize and then to be thankful. And so, anyways, just put your hand on your heart. Lord, I pray, Lord, that we would feast on Thanksgiving. Lord, that we would recognize, that we would know who our God is, and that Thanksgiving would spring forth, that there would be such a sound of thanksgiving, there would be such a sound of praise that comes from this community, Lord, that we would be great stewards, that we would remember the things that you have done in our lives, and that it would cause thanksgiving to flow from our lips. And Lord, that we would be able to cultivate a place of thanksgiving, a fragrance of thanksgiving. Amen.